Hey everybody, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, for some reason, I just noticed this, of course, after I start the show that for some reason my mouse is not showing up on the whatever this emulator software is. But we're just gonna roll with it. Let's just see if anybody else shows back up. Sorry about that. Give it just a couple more seconds here. Almost ready. All right, let's do it. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so Bitcoin. We are now down under 8,000. That is kind of crappy. We are, let me just pull up the 4 hour here. Give me 1 second. Okay, so we are in a really kind of perilous area here because we have found on the 4 hour here. So it's a very good chance that we're kind of basically somewhere test this support line down here. And if you go to the daily, there we go. Okay, so and log on. There we go. There we go. Okay, so this was our log resistance line that we basically had hit here, 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 and then this was our breakout moment that we had that we thought basically everybody was going to go, to break 10,000, and that was where we got, pretty strongly rejected. So this line really has yet to be tested yet, and it has just been tested because we came close to it over here. When was that? About a week ago. And then we kind of held support, had a nice little bounce down here, held support, nice little bounce. And again, we kind of gave all that back. So yeah, it's very possible that we could kind of go a little sideways action here for a while. But in all honesty here, I think we're going to hit this line again at some point. Now, it's been a while since we've had some really nasty red candles coming down here. I mean, there was, let's see, this is a daily. So I'll just give you an example here. The end of March, we were at 7,900, and then we went down to 6,900. So that was $1,000 candle drop. Haven't had one of those in a while. We had a $1,000 candle rise here, and what was this 9,000 to 4,000. So that was about a $600 drop there that we had about a week ago. So having this next kind of potential of that super red candle kind of feels like it could happen, and this is the reason why. On the daily, we still have a lot of more room here to hit the lower Bollinger. That's what I'm watching here. I want to see if we can break this lower Bollinger, because that would be a very oversold, extreme exsold, kind of movement there. I don't think we would do it in one candle, because basically, 79? Yeah, we're talking lower, lower 7,300 area or so. Basically, what I want to watch for is right there, because if you see here in my crosshair, I'm sorry about that, but if you see here in my crosshair, you're basically seeing that when we had this candle here on April 3rd, we had this kind of nice top off here, and we topped off at 7,500. Then when we had our big green candle on April 12th, and we retraced the next day, we only came back to about 7,700. So there's a gap. There's a gap here between a kind of resistance and support test area, right in this zone here, basically between $77 and $7,500, which means that if we touch 77, there's nothing here that is going to that's going to basically stop us from quickly testing 7,500. And once that gap is filled, that could be a very interesting area, because that gap being filled basically completes this pattern, basically shows that this area here, which is basically at 7,500 on the dot, could be a very strong support. We would actually see that kind of support, pushing forward there, and potentially, bringing us that next leg that everybody seems to be kind of waiting for. So, we're keep an eye on that, because there's nothing in the previous day's candle that tells me anything very positive about this candle today, other than the fact maybe we'd be oversold. Well, let's take a look here. So on the daily, start with the daily. We have a RSI here, so there's plenty of room to come down if it wanted to. We saw support at the lower area here, which it held, and we saw where we actually broke through it here on the daily back in February, which gave us that, nice little beginning of that really strong uptrend there. So we could be reaching an area again where we might get down there, but we're not even close yet. There's a lot of room to go here. Same with the stock RSI. We have a basically bearish drop where the blue line has crossed pretty significantly over the orange or red there. And this hasn't bottomed yet either. This had bottomed over here and over here. We had a little pop. But now this could even fall pretty precipitously if the RSI wanted to fall as well. So my point is, there's still room to fall in the daily RSI chart. But let's take a look at the 4-hour here, and I think this is going to give you, a little bit more perspective here. What I want to basically talk about is this RSI area here, which is basically right there, almost about to break through our oversold area, if you will, which is the 30. Our 70 area up here is our overbought area, which we did break through a couple times over here. So Bitcoin 4-hour, we're right there. We're basically right holding. We're almost breaking, almost. But let's see how that goes, because when this goes into the area, that's going to perk up the ears of a lot of traders here. We see our stock RSI has been bottom since the 22nd. So we're only on the first day of this bottoming on the 4-hour. We see over here when we bottom in the 6th, and we stay bottom for 2 days there. So we could be down here for a couple days while the RSI gets even lower into oversold areas. Now you see how far we got here on the RSI. We got them to 19 right here when we were oversold on the most recent dip on the RSI. So if we get down there again, I would totally look for that area to hold as support, if that's a possibility. So we still have room to drop on the 4-hour. We definitely have room to drop on the daily. Let's take a little wider view. Let's look at the weekly. And I think, this is kind of give you an understanding about, let's just clear the board here. Kind of where we're at here. And this is kind of a very interesting area here. We have held the 55, which is this yellow line here. When we fell back in February, when we retested it here, we did break, but we basically did find it in support eventually. So there is precedence for breaking it again. But I almost feel like the third time, and I mean third time meaning in terms of an area. So this was area 1. These 3 weeks here are area 2, which we had that Morningstar kind of reverse pattern here. And now, it almost looks like it wants to test it again. And I think if we do test the 55 here, which is our orange line there, I think it could break, and I think it could break pretty hard. You see where we are in the weekly Bollinger and how crazy high we were over it back when we peaked out around 20,000. Obviously then, in hindsight, you can just see how crazy overbought Bitcoin was on the weekly. To see that much height over the upper Bollinger Band on the weekly, that really says a lot about, kind of how crazy overbought that is. So now we're refinding our equilibrium on the Bollinger. And by doing so, they're tightening, especially on the weekly. So we still have some more tightening here and here to really go before we can kind of create some sort of a new trend. And unfortunately, that is going to take some time to consolidate. The lower the price goes, the quicker this upper Bollinger line will chase down and come to the lower Bollinger line there and tighten quicker. So we might have to see that in order for this equilibrium pattern to kind of come back into play. If we were to break the 55 here, you kind of see where the lower Bollinger is right now. It's really right around $6,000. But, I'm not saying that's our next step there. This could potentially take some time to play out, weeks even. So this line will change. This will move higher. So that lower Bollinger Live could be around $6,600, in another week from now, just depending upon this current week's price action. But I would look for that as a potential target if we were to break heavy, this 55 EMA here. That's kind of where we are on Bitcoin here. Let's take a look at Ethereum, and I'm just going to say hello. Thanks for hanging. In the chat room there, and again in the chat room, if anybody has any alts that they want me to take a look at, and we can definitely do that, and we can see some of that price action and get a sense of that. So Ethereum, let's take a look here. We have basically after this bottoming area here we had back in early April. We had just great 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks of solid green candles there, and then this was a decently long wick up top here, and then ever since then we've had these three previous week, the 3 current weeks here of red. Now on the weekly here, we're pretty oversold. I mean, not say oversold, but we're definitely a long red candle there. Now you saw what happened the last 2 weeks there when we had these long red candles. We actually were able to fight back and come back pretty strong. So I always like to see that maybe this week again we'll put in the same situation where at this moment now, or at least close to it, this could be kind of that pattern where we are, in an oversold area. But let's take a closer look. So the weekly, we see where we are here, kind of in the middle of the Bollinger range. RSI is kind of in the middle as well. We do have a bearish stock RSI kind of overlap there. So that could play out a little bit. We might basically see some more downward momentum there. We see how high on the weekly we are over the 55 EMA. But let's zoom in a little bit. We'll go to the daily and we see where we are here. So daily chart, we have a tight Bollinger. I like that. Basically dead stick, kind of same way. We're basically the same price we were, at the beginning of May. We gave back this giant green candle here, and then some. We were able to find support in this kind of confluence here of EMAs. The problem now is that the price is below a lot of these EMAs, the 55, 21, the 100. So because of that, these kind of now act as resistance levels. We are finding a little support here over our 200-day on the daily, which is good. Let's hold that. That could be kind of our last line of support, if you will, in terms of all these EMA here. You also see we are pushing down on the lower Bollinger. So we could, potentially test 630 area here, kind of there, 638, 628 is where the lower Bollinger is right now. So that's something there. We're kind of getting an oversold area, but let's see where we're on the RSI. On the daily, we basically show room to go lower. On the 4 hour, wow, look at this. Look at this on the 4 hour there. So this is oversold in the 4 hour. I mean, look how low we are here. We kind of tipped our toe here, but there is precedent over here back when we actually really did bottom back at the end of March, that we could go much lower. We were as low as 16 there. We are only at 25 here, on the 4 hour RSI. The stock RSI suggests we're basically bottomed out here. Pretty big dip in the OBV too. That's definitely a pretty nasty sell-off here. So where are we here? We are finding this support back over here where we had been before in this box. We're finding supports back over here where we were basically in the end of April. We had this big dip. A lot of price action here, here, here. So there's a lot of activity. Let's just say 650, 625 to 650 area here. And we're back there again. But look at this on the volume bar here. Look at this really nasty red candle here. I mean, either smart money is loading right here or smart money is getting out because they kind of see the writing on the wall. Now, we have had this great run here. Okay, we did correct right here, but we kind of failed to continue this move here. And now we're just kind of wobbling around here. And now it appears that we're about to kind of break through this support that we have found for, at least all of the, at least the past week or so in May. So where are our support levels? Well, let's talk about them. If we are to break, this area here, let's just call it, 6. I'll go even lower. I would say about 625 because remember, Ethereum likes to move in 25s and stuff, so that's kind of a interesting thing there. So let's say with a 625, let's say we are unable to find support in the 625 area, zooming out. So try and see where there's a larger confluence of price action. So yeah, like right here, I mean, if we broke 600 from our psychological, which is kind of our next area there, yeah, so 625, and then I would definitely say 600. It's a decent amount of price history, especially here. I like to see that right there. We kind of played around with it here. We actually broke it and had never really touched it from the end of April there. So now we're basically back in this area here where we could basically test it again. So this is a must-hold area if you want to kind of this bullishness to continue. Otherwise, we could probably stair-step lower and lower as the market tries to find, other areas to play around with there. Take a look at Litecoin. Now, I follow Litecoin a lot. I think it's a good kind of primer as to the strength of Bitcoin and really the overall alt market in general. You could argue it's kind of one of the number one alts in the sense that it is, from an age standpoint, from a development standpoint, it's been around for a while. It's on, available on most, if not all, marketplaces. And, you kind of see it as an alt that kind of can be a forebearer potentially of, when that next run might come based on when Litecoin may officially find the bottom. So where are we now? Well, we broke 130. And that kind of stinks because, I know we dipped our toe under it about a week ago, maybe 5 days ago. But we broke it again. So now 130, that's going to be a strong resistance line now. We are right there. There's a lot of history in that area here. Recent history there. I mean, like right here, so this area from 128, let's say to 132, we have a lot of history here, 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 here. So all this time here since basically the beginning of April, 125, 120, I'd say 128 to 132. This has been a very important area here. If we're going to break this, are we really talking that we could potentially go down to these, kind of lower 100s levels where we tested, back in the end of March? We bought them at 109. We're at 127. You have to ask yourself, is 127 a bargain? Considering we were at the 180s, 182, 2 weeks ago in May? So just this has fallen precipitously. 4-hour chart shows our RSI getting down to those oversold areas, stock RSI as well. The 4-hour, the daily suggests, similar to Ethereum, room to fall. Stock RSI has been down here for a while here. That's kind of interesting to me. I kind of see that as being down here long enough, basically. That's good. But, if Bitcoin keeps falling here, we kind of see, is this going to get worse? I want to take more of a kind of a longer historic view, though, of Litecoin just for a moment here, just to talk about, how big of a parabolic move this was and why it does have to correct so much if you want this kind of trend to continue. If you think about where Litecoin was, like let's say a year and a half ago, and kind of before its big move, and what that represented was, you could get it for, couple bucks, and that couple bucks turned into $15-$20, and then $11, $12, and then $30 back in May of 2 years ago, or May a year ago. So a year ago, Litecoin was $32. Okay, so now we're at $127. So you could be like, oh wow, in a year it was $32, and now it's $127. That's a tremendous move. But if you didn't see this parabolic move that brought us to 400, you wouldn't even believe that it could have done something like that. So we are still correcting, I believe, from this parabolic move here. And we're not done yet, because you have to realize even these moved in here from when Litecoin was at, 10, 15, $20, all the way up to $90, and then again up to $90, and the breakout that basically occurred. I mean, that in itself, you could argue, was a parabolic move, a 10 bagger, a 10 times move, where you buy it at $10 and you can sell it at $100, or $9, you can sell it at $90. Normally when that happens, whether it be penny stocks or low cap stocks, or even stocks in general, those moves take time, and then when they do happen, they're extremely rare and they take a long time to correct. So you kind of see this situation play out, I believe, still in Litecoin, even though it is a crypto and an alt and all these things and everything about the positive future it does have. From a pure charting standpoint, you have to acknowledge that this parabolic move needs to correct further, similar to Ethereum as well. So where kind of is our trend line here? And if we basically start our trend line from back down to where it really started getting going, basically from $5, we see a hold support over this line, and we actually touched it here at $53 back in November, and then from there that started kind of our parabolic run. So if we extend that line out farther, where is that price right now? Well, right now it's at about $97. But if we go out, let's say, a month or so, that price is roughly around $105. So from a psychological standpoint, is $100 kind of a base bottom for Litecoin in a long-term capacity? If we were potentially to break down to that 109 area, which we were at back in early April, and then not be able to hold that, $100, like, I'd buy Litecoin at $100. I mean, I almost bought into it, bigly originally, when it was like $70. So even that would be like an amazing price to buy more Litecoin at. But just feels like, did you, hated it at 150, or loved it at 150, hated it at 127. Didn't want to buy it at 110, 115, but now I'm debating if I want to buy it at 127. My point is that this can have little moves and whatever, but for Litecoin to really go on its next run and to really have that next move that we really all hope it has, it really needs to find that bottoming area. And, that could be a sub 100 scenario. But for right now, it really all depends what Bitcoin does. Because if Bitcoin does go lower, then that will basically set the stage for Litecoin. And I want to watch that divergence, that LTC BTC divergence. That basically this is the ratio of Litecoin to Bitcoin. Roughly speaking, it's 1.6% the price of Bitcoin to a Litecoin, of Litecoin to a Bitcoin. And this is kind of an interesting thing you want to watch, because at some point, it's a possibility that Litecoin could exceed the price rise of Bitcoin. And that could be a really cool thing to see, because then it could almost be a, no matter what Bitcoin price action happens, Litecoin can do its own thing and become its own price mover. It's coiling here. This is kind of interesting. Boom, 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 boom. Very tight price stability, very strong stability to the price of Bitcoin right now. Basically, they're saying that Litecoin is still going to be pegged pretty much pound for pound to Bitcoin right now until something happens. This could fall off quicker. You could see a divergence bearish knee where the price of the Litecoin could fall quicker than the price of Bitcoin. But for now, and for basically, I don't know, since April, We've really seen that stability move forward. So that's kind of cool. So those are your big three there. I guess we can look at Bitcoin Cash real quickly here. You know, this one was our highest flyer. This could be our quickest pullback. A lot of these green candles here have very little support in them. Very little consolidation through these moves here. We do have support areas. Let's just call it here. I'd say, yeah, like right here, right in this 975. You know, $1,000 obviously is a psychological level there. You know, if we were to get down there, it's possible. Kind of complete this big arc, you know, of price action here. You know, but really starting from this big first candle here, there's not a lot of price stability here because they just went up so quickly. So it's very possible we could give a lot of these green candles back. You know, and you're seeing a lot of bearishness still in the price action. Now, daily suggests we can go lower. Stock RSI is still bearish. In the 4 hour, you know, we definitely suggest we can go lower. We haven't even broken down to oversold yet on the 4 hour RSI. So this definitely could come down lower here. And we are definitely giving it up too on the OPV as well. Whew. Okay, let me have a drink here and compose myself. I will look at the coin market cap, and then we can do some alts. How does that sound? And you can start putting out your alt requests on the chat if you would like. Bitcoin, let's take a look. So up top here, we have 1,615 cryptocurrencies. I believe that's 10 more since the last time I checked this a few days ago. We have market cap of $355 billion. It's down like $100 billion from where we were at the beginning of May, I think. Bitcoin dominance, 38.4%. That's increased. That has increased. I think we were as low as 36 or so. Price action, look at that. Look at that fall off. I mean, look at that. We were on 10 billion on May 3rd. Now we are past 2 days, 5 billion, 5 billion. And even today, we're kind of in that $5 billion 24-hour volume zone. So we're consistent, but we're low. Now, is this low because there isn't a lot of selling? Or is this low because there isn't a lot of buying? You know, we're seeing these red days, continued falling off price, low volume. So it's not really that there isn't a lot of selling. It's just isn't a lot of buyers. So there's just going to be that, you know, obvious downward price action here. So this is bearish to me, you know, right now. You know, it could suggest that the selling is dried up, that we are going to hold 8,000 more or less. But, you know, and that kind of did happen before when we kind of had this very low, you know, dollar price on Bitcoin. And then all of a sudden it shot up. So we could be moving into that area again where we just get really quiet on the price action there. So let's take a look at some alts, shall we? And thanks for hanging out there in the chat room tonight. Sorry about our audio issues earlier. And I'll try and figure out why my mouse is not showing up on my next live broadcast. Yeah, so let's take a look at ZRX. Let's start with that one. So, this one I've been watching for a while, obviously. We have a situation here where this box of support is what I was watching, and we're kind of in it, kind of almost blowing through it. The reason I was looking at this price area here is just because of how it did act as some short-term support on its really nice bullish move it had back in the beginning of May. So we're not holding that area there, and that is bad, which basically puts other lower areas potentially in play. So let's get our horizontal lines out here. And, you know, this thing went up so fast here. Like, yeah, like you could argue that maybe, you know, 14,000, like right there. We had a top off here on 2 wicks on the 4 hour. A couple wicks here found price support on it. So yeah, 14,000 kind of could be that next support area. If we go back in time to February, we see right there 14.1, 14.1, 14.1, 14.1, and a little more price history there as well. So we could be going back to a large confluence of price history, definitely between kind of right where we are now, you know? So let's hold here. That'd be really important to hold here. But we could definitely go lower, and that would basically put us, well, let's just stick with 14.1 right now. So, that basically shows that's not that much farther down here. But, let's face it, people, all the alts are kind of in this price pressure moment right now just because of what's going on with Bitcoin. Not all of them, but definitely some of them there for sure. Let's take a look at, so let's just keep going here. So, daily chart. Um, the RSI definitely suggests room to come down. Stock RSI also is down, and the OBV is still strong though. So people are still accumulating with this little drop here, even though the price has been pretty ugly. 4 hour, similarly getting closer to an oversold area, but not yet. So we might find some near-term support in this area here, because of all the history here. But let's face it, little bounce here is possible, but this could come back lower just because of 400% run, right? From where it bottomed March 20th, was that 5,000, let's say, went to 20,000, 5, 10, 20, 400%. So you go 400% in a month and a half. You got to correct from that. You just got to correct from that. So I think you're seeing that still play out there on TRX. On ZRX. But let's look at TRX since I brought it up. Okay, now this one's interesting. So let's first acknowledge that we had, this is TRX here, bottoms, 300s, nice pop here, gave a lot of it back, crazy green candle, gave a lot of that back, and then had a really nice run to over 1,000 Satoshi. So that was great run. But now we are really retracing here. Now we did bottom with some really nice wicks here to about 730 to 750 here, let's call it. And that coincided with this yellow kind of lower support line there. And once we broke out of the green one, because we did find it as support right here, we basically created this new impulse wave where we broke out of this bullish wedge. Now we're correcting from that. So we're still totally bullish. I mean, there's nothing to say we're not. So the 4 hour, the first thing I look for is the 55 on the 4 hour. And I've just noticed that just keeps becoming a kind of interesting support area. So right here, if we get there, I want to see how the price action reacts. Right now on the 4 hour, we are 3 hours into it. So what are we putting in here? We're putting in kind of a bottom hammer. Right now we are, but it could also be a pretty nasty dragonfly doji, which could be bearish as well, and kind of bring on some lower supports here. We do have to correct from 830 to 985. So yeah, there's definitely some correcting here. But if we were to hold right here, especially with this previous 4 hour candles wicks, we could definitely keep moving here. Even with Bitcoin's downward price pressure, we're still kind of holding on there. TRX is not down that much. So there's still a lot of bullishness here. But have we fully corrected even from this move here as a whole? It's tough to say. We could still find some more correcting because of this. I'd call this a parabolic, mini parabolic from April 15th to April 30th. So in 2 weeks, we went up 100%. We did correct a lot, but I would not be surprised if we had more correcting here. The 4 hours suggests we could really come down here. Yeah, the daily as well. So it's definitely a bullish chart, but God, it could just really keep your expectations in check here, because the more sideways we can go, the more longer term bullish I could definitely be on it. But for now, I'm just seeing that, if you wanted it to get in, somewhere in this sevens area here that this was a nice move here, but this could just be the beginning of that next kind of corrective wave there of this nice move here. Let's do a couple more here. Let's do NEO. And Bitcoin. Okay, so NEO. Yikes. Okay, so first thing I want to look at, I want to figure out where my current kind of resistance points are. You know, these are the wicks here. I will account for those. Kind of have a good sense of where our support line is right now, maybe. It's kind of drawn around here. You know, we kind of touch there. Trying to find some sort of, you know, we do have a triple touch here. One here, here, and here. So yeah, in short term, I'd say this line here is kind of valid. So I'm cool with that. You know, if we can kind of hold it and bounce around here, might be able to find some support there. What's kind of our overall trend here? Yeah, so we're in this zone here where, what even go? That's tricky because it broke that, so that was the trend there. Yeah, so we're going here. So this is where I see it. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So I want to hold here, and then I want to bounce up here. That is like our best case scenario. I hold right here, and I bounce into this box here because we found support here, here, here. We broke it, we broke through it, and then here we found support here, here, and then we broke down from it. So because we broke down from it, I want to retest it again, moving higher. That way, if we hold in this area around 7,000, a bounce here. Now, here's our bear scenario. If we were to break this area here, 7,000, yeah, clearly right there, 6,600 there, right there, and a bunch of kind of history here, here, and here. Maybe a little bit lower even, maybe like 6,500 Satoshi. So, you know, there's a lot of history here. I would like to see another little bullish move here if we can kind of hold this area here. In terms of indicators, 4 hours suggests we definitely could have room to fall. You know, daily as well, but I like this tightening in the RSI there. You know, it's very tight there in the price action. I kind of like that. You could argue it could be putting up kind of a higher low trend in the RSI there. So let's hold this area here. You know, there's a lot of history for NEO in the 7,000 area. Let's do some ADA. I know I got it right there. Have a sip of my drink. You know, and I was kind of playing around with some, you know, Elliott waves and trying to figure out, you know, what kind of a correction pattern we could be putting in here. And, you know, let's face it, this definitely is a long A wave. And why is because we're now breaking through that, you know, wave 4 retrace of our, you know, 5-wave Elliott wave pattern up. We are right now finding support. Let me just get rid of this fella and get rid of this guy and get rid of this guy for now. So we are finding support right here. We have a lot of history here, you know, in this $2,700 2,700 Satoshi area here, here was our breakout moment. So clearly we're going to test it. I mean, we're just going to test it again, and we really need to hold it. Because we hold it, we can definitely skip off it and continue our bullish move and maybe even retest this area up here, which kind of is our resistance confluence line based on our previous price action from our parabolic move. But until that happens, we need to kind of have a hard bounce here. So let's see, what does oversold look like on ADA? Well, we've been pretty oversold on our stock RSI here for several days here. So that's good. That's from a reset standpoint. That could be good. Our overall RSI is still coming down. Wow, it was really toppy over here for quite a while. But we see how low it did get back in the beginning of March. So when this touches 30, and right now we're at 34, so we're getting close. And look at the slope is kind of slowing down here, so we might be getting to kind of slow our bleed and kind of arc here. But a real kaputs through could set up a really nice V bottom bounce. It is possible. So I really want to watch this RSI, because we see what happened when we broke it, had a bounce, and stayed below for quite a while. And on the daily chart, like, that's pretty low, especially right here. Daily to be at 19 on the RSI. I mean, what a great risk versus reward entry. And you were rewarded quite nicely with that really big spike there, a pullback, and then your overall, trend line there. So keep an eye on ADA. We're definitely getting closer to a bounce area. The 4-hour, look how low we are here, but look how low we got here, 20. We're at 23, so we're getting closer. We're getting closer to areas here where you would assume there could be a bounce. However, history has shown that we can really get bloody quickly, especially with whatever Bitcoin does. And Bitcoin is, yikes, looking. So we did break that 7,900 area here. We have kind of blew through it pretty nasty there. So on our daily, where are we here? So yeah, it's continued red, but on the 4-hour, now we have broken through that oversold. So this is kind of get interesting. Think about that low of the day situation. When we get too oversold, we get in an area where we're just a little too red. You start to see some buyers come in. Really try and find some bottom stability in some of the price action here. So I'm going to leave it there, guys. Just be safe out there. Thanks for joining me tonight. I'd like to do a couple more of these live, interactions kind of over the next couple of weeks, so I can kind of hone this and get better at it. And, we'll do some more of these. My throat's a little hoarse right now, so I'm going to just kind of end it there. And we'll get to some more alts. The next one, I'll definitely tweet some more alts over the next day or so. Lots happening here. You're going to see some bottom feeding, some price action here. Litecoin at 126. Kind of an interesting area here. We're kind of in the 4-hour oversold, getting there, but the daily could suggest definitely go down a little lower there, but we are kind of evening out. Are we seeing some bullishness in it? Keep an eye, though, on the Litecoin to Bitcoin ratio. It's very important to see. Super tight there. I want to see a differential in kind of the price action there. Ethereum, 630. We're right there, just right there at an area there where you really want to hold. Could find some support here for sure, because our 4-hour is very low, lower than any of them, very low. This could be a very interesting entry point right here, just from a risk versus reward standpoint there, right around 630 there, just because how low we are here. But be careful, the daily could go even lower. So there's going to be some bouncing along the way. The more volatile we get in the price, potentially the better that could be, because that could really set up more of a definitive bottoming area. That's kind of what you want to see if you want to see some sort of a trend change. So thanks for joining me, guys. I appreciate it. Be in touch. Talk to you soon. Have a good night.